From now on, your life is Disney Desk. You can forget about your friends, you can forget about your family, because Disney Desk is now both your mother and your podcast.
Wow. That's an interesting angle to take.
There were so many easy layouts,
You had a lot of
and
options,
I'm like, no. Style points count these days, my friends. You gotta, you have to show up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome to the Disney Desk, everyone. I'm Carter.
And I'm Sydney.
And this is the ultimate example of someone using their birthday month powers for the worst.
Yes. First of all, welcome to the Patreon party. I feel like at this point we need to just rebrand this as Patreon party instead of whatever other thing we're calling it. But, yes, today...
It's our alliteration and tag.
That's true. Yeah, today for you, our lovely Patreon listeners, we are covering one of our... Is it safe to call this one of our favorite films? Like,
I think so.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your history with it because I know that less than mine, but
I don't know that I have an extensive history with it beyond just having watched it a lot as a kid and then watching it a lot again when it came to Netflix.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes, today we are talking about a film very near and dear to my heart, Good Burger, the 1997 American teen comedy film. What the hell, Wikipedia? It is based off the iconic Good Burger skits from the Nickelodeon show All of That.
Right.
And like any great SNL sort of riff, they decided, hey, we should have movies based off our skits too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we always take for granted how much like early or like 90s Nickelodeon was modeled after just like adult programming. And honestly that was part of its success is giving kids the same content just with kids in it. All that was a huge success, and it made, it had mega, stars in it. It made those kids into stars. One of whom still works in sketch comedy. Has devoted his entire career to sketch comedy. So yeah, this is a really exciting thing to be talking about because it's something that we have been so familiar with. And, I think this really relies on you having a birthday month because it's like, where else would this fit into what we do? It just wouldn't.
Right, because if we did a Nickelodeon month, there's too much stuff for this to get, like, priority.
Right.
Like, it had to be during my birthday month. And I was hesitant to say this because we just did a whole month on SpongeBob, and it's like, it'll be nice to get back to Disney.
Right.
And then I'm like, hey, Sydney, for my birthday,
can we talk about Nickelodeon? Yeah.
Can we do Key and Come, please? I don't know,
Yeah.
I really like Good Burger. Can we please do Good Burger? It's got Sinbad in it. Sydney, can we watch the movie? This is gonna be all bits, guys. I'm gonna be honest. This film is fucking nuts. So we're just going.
Oh
for
yeah.
It. Which can I start off by just saying I'm looking at like the IMDb page. Do you know what the tagline for this movie was?
Oh God, I'm scared. No, what is it?
Okay. So, obviously, at the top, it just says Kenan and Kel. You don't need their first names. It's like Cheech and Chong. It's like, it's Abbott and Costello. It's their
Lucy
name.
and Ethel. It's there.
It shows them sort of riding on what I assume is some kind of orange soda wave on, like, pickles and stuff. Nickelodeon presents Good Burger, and it is a comedy with everything on it.
Oh my gosh, that's really funny.
Yeah, right?
That's perfect.
Yeah, so my relationship with this film, well, I think it's similar in terms of, like, I was very much a Nickelodeon kid growing up. Like, I was all in on, like, we talked about, like, I really wasn't into Disney for a period of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I was uber in on Nickelodeon because it was, like, for kids. It was the cool,
right.
We've done this bit before. This is one of our go-to bits. Like, do kick flips,
Nickelodeon,
go to Independence
boogers.
Hall and go to Independence Hall and moon the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, let's belch.
But anyway, and like obviously I loved Kenan and Kel because like I don't know, it's it is like I went back and watched those skits. It is amazing how like perfectly harmonizing those two are in
Ooh,
terms
yes.
of like comedic stylings. Two guys who understand what's funny about them
Right.
to a T and just completely locked in with a studio that knew like let's not look a gift horse in the mouth. Let's let
Right.
these guys cook.
Right.
And this movie was basically a regular in my VHS player for the better half of 3 or 4 years.
Really?
Where it would just always be. Yeah, honestly, one of the reasons why I think this movie gets pushed up in my like nostalgic memory pool is because there was an evening on a weekend. I couldn't have been more than like 11 or 12 at the time, at max, where we literally turned it on, played it, immediately rewound it, watched it again, immediately rewound it until the sun came up at 7 a.m.
What?
I
Who
think
did
we
you do
started
this
around
with?
like 7 or 8. Me and my brother.
On purpose? Like, well, I guess obviously on purpose
Yes.
because it took effort to watch
We
movies
just
back
kept
then.
watching it.
Wow.
Well, yeah, but we would do that trick where you hit stop and then rewind, that like double time
Oh.
it. That you're only supposed to do, like, they do that at like,
Emergencies.
stores like Best Buy and stuff. Because it's
Right.
like, they have a machine for it.
Right. Right.
But yeah, this movie is one of those ones where I actually could sit down and tell you every single scene
Oh my
that
gosh.
happens. And yet, as I sit down and watch it in its entirety for the first time in God knows how long, I'm like, if you tried to sit down and explain someone every individual scene moment to moment, they would think you got kicked by a horse.
Right. Exactly. I didn't know that you were like this attached to this movie as a kid.
Oh, yeah. This was like my go-to white noise film. This was like my
Wow.
go-to, I want something on right now.
Oh man.
Which is, I mean, can you blame me?
No, not even a little bit. But I am kind of surprised because like there's nothing relaxing or like neutral about any of this movie. So it's so odd to think that this was a background noise movie.
Right. It is kind of weird when I say it out loud because it's like, it's simultaneously a movie you can just listen to and just get the vibe, but at the same time, so much happens.
Yeah.
So many crazy, like, I will say, like, if you were to explain someone the difference between Disney and Nickelodeon, you would be like, well, here's High School Musical, okay? And then you'd be like, here's Good Burger. And you kind of get it. We talk about, like, how much of Nick is inspired by, like, variety shows and,
Right.
like, late-night television. And this is the embodiment of that, where it's like, it is basically just skit after skit after skit.
Yeah.
Literally going, like, basically, like, let's take our most iconic skit and then make, like, 7 or 8 skits based off of that.
You know, it's like, yes, this film may be the best example of Nickelodeon's energy from start to finish. And, you know, as I was rewatching it, like, I forgot about how much of Nickelodeon was sort of like abstract modern art. Like this, the film, like its sort of title sequence is like this sort of like stop motion burger image.
Yes.
And I was like, oh yeah.
With this weird music, like,
Yes. It reminded me of like Rugrats, like that had this sort of like strangely like kind of abstract arts and crafts style like artwork moments. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was so Nickelodeon back then, was doing bits like this.
you know, and like maybe it's because recently Paul Rubens passed away, but it is so much like Pee Wee Herman
Yes.
energy in terms of like, it is kitsch and pastiche, like it's a pastiche of the past, but at the same time, it's weirdly like 90s modern art. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you took all the kitschy television you watched from the 50s, like all the weird stop motion stuff, all of like
Yes.
the weird like comedy, and like smashed it into this weird like postmodern, like, you know, almost avant-garde energy.
Right.
Like you just end up with this weird kaleidoscope of madness. Mm-hmm. And I like, and again, I like that comparison just because it's like, I did go back and watch some of the original Good Burger skits, and so much of Kel as a character, or Ed as a character, I just called him Kel. But you know what? That's just his character,
they
because
feel
it's
like-
basically his character in Kenan and Kel.
Right, exactly.
Like, they don't change it. He just doesn't have a job.
Right, yeah.
This version's gainfully employed.
Right.
But, like, half of it is that Pee Wee Herman SpongeBob energy of, like, who is this weirdo? What is their deal? How old are they?
Right.
Like, do they understand basic conversation? But at the same time, they have, like, the solution to every problem, whether they realize it or not.
You know, you brought up something that stuck out to me, the question of how old are they, because I never noticed before until watching it this time that Dexter, Keenan's character, is in high school, but Ed seems to just have a day job. Like, is he older? I guess he is.
Oh, I never really thought about that, huh?
He's never shown being in school, even at the beginning. So is he, like, he just works? Is he an adult?
I'm not sure. I mean, I guess my head, because it's established he lives with his dad, right? Because
Yeah,
he
at
says the
least.
line, like, I don't even know what my dad like, but at least I get to see him
every day. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, but again, that's the Pee Wee Herman thing of, like, what time are we in? What universe is
Yeah.
this? Like, you're an adult but a child, and also, like,
Right.
some kind of ethereal force of evil or good,
I mean,
depending on if you like the person.
I guess we could assume that, like, he's, 19, like, just graduate, like, you know? So he still feels
Yeah,
young,
that tracks.
but could very well just be working a job. Yeah.
But yes, then there's, like, as I described it watching the skits, it's like, oh, he's Amelia Bedelia.
Oh,
You just
yes.
get red in the face yelling at them, being like, why are you misunderstanding every single direction? So many jokes in this are just
What's
someone
wrong
saying
with
something
this
and him
person?
someone saying something to him and him taking it super literally or like in an obtuse way, where it's like, can you get that through your head? And he's like, I could try. Or like, how does $20 an hour sound? It kind of sounds like
Wait, I really need to talk about how low key, like, you know, in the beginning, like the gag is with Ed being like on his way to work. I'm not like, okay, wait a minute. Every single Good Burger employee is incompetent.
right.
Like low key, all of them, even the smartest ones, are kind of buffoons.
A boob.
Yeah, like it's just the whole
It's-
plays.
Oh yeah, but that's like the ultimate, like, again, this is like the ultimate slobs versus snobs energy.
Yes.
It's like it's one of the ultimate '90s tropes: slobs
Right.
versus snobs.
Yeah.
Like the snooty belt wearing wasps versus like the
Yeah.
underdogs, and the underdogs in this case are a bunch of idiots who run a burger stand.
They're all idiots. Yeah, that like beginning sequence just I get such a kick out of, and we can talk more about characters, but one of my favorite characters is probably Monique, like the girl that works there. I think she is
Such
so
a 90s
funny.
name.
Such a 90s name, but she's so funny. But in the beginning, when she goes to the counter and he's like, I'd like to place an order, and she's like, okay, hey Ed, like she like just doesn't help him. Like I'm like, oh my god, even like objectively the smartest person here is like just very much not
Like,
present.
I can't take the two set. It's so like programmed to only follow the exact directive
Right.
they've been given. They can't possibly imagine like, hey, I'll just punch in the code and activate this register
Right.
so I can get you your order.
Right,
and
there's
keep
a
the
line
moving.
forming out the door. Yeah, like,
Yeah, that's like beyond their comprehension.
right.
And that's also what I mean, like, this is just skit after skit. Like, you sit down and you're like, what's a good burger skit? Oh, Ed's late for work and no one else knows how to work the register. How much
just
can we get
him.
out of that? And it's like, well, Ed almost kills someone by getting them caught in their own jump rope and smacking their head
Oh
over
my
and over and over again into
gosh.
the pavement.
Forgot
I forgot. I was like,
the
oh man,
baby-
she really just eats it.
I remember
yeah,
the baby
He accidentally
part.
takes a baby who gets shot
Where-
into the air.
Where they dunk the baby in the basket. Yeah. Like, I do remember that from, like, being a kid.
My favorite part of being an adult is seeing when it's obviously swapped out for a doll.
Oh, yeah. So
And,
they,
like,
like, toss this
there's a
doll in
weird-
the air.
And there's also like a weird like
Acceptance
error
of
in
that?
continuity where before the baby gets shot into the air, you clearly see someone looking at it from a distance. Like Ed's
Right.
moving and realizes he has the basketball, and you see the guy holding the doll clearly is like, huh?
Right.
So they like edited it wrong. Yeah, like that's like the ultimate example of this film's energy. Just like madcap gag after gag centered around one premise.
Right. Right.
With this like snobs versus slobs thing being the overarching plot. Can I just say, Kurt might be like, I think that's why this film sticks with me so much, because Kurt is like the ultimate 90s villain. He's
Right.
like the ultimate like kid villain of
Oh,
like
yeah.
frosted tips, like screechy
Right.
angry voice. He
Yeah.
acts cool, but like when you sit for 2 seconds as an adult, you're like, oh, you're a dweeb.
Yeah.
This is your dream, man, running
Kinda
a like slightly above average burger place.
like this guy. This trope always had like the like futuristic style that was popular in the 90s
Right.
of like being sort of weirdly like alien futuristic. Like that's
yeah,
always
they
the
have
angle.
like the jumpsuits.
Yeah, and like a lot of metallic, a lot of gel in the hair. Yeah.
Their jumpsuits are like rubbery too, and like there's just a
Right.
constant joke. Anytime someone touches one, they increase the sound of like the squeakiness.
Right. And it's like, okay, like, I mean, we can talk about Good Burger, but like to talk about Mondo Burger, first of all, like the word Mondo it just sounds 90s. Like, I feel like that's
Right.
like, like weird made up words like that, like that mean like Uber or night or whatever, like were used a
Exactly.
lot in the 90s.
Yeah, it's like, well, there's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles character named Mondo Gecko, and it's like, yes,
Yes.
the start of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the only time like you could have someone use the phrase Mondo,
Right.
and it'd be like, yeah, we understand what that means.
Yeah, obviously. Is it not obvious? And it's supposed to be this like amazing I don't know what to call it, burger experience emporium, like
It looks like well, again, it's 90s. It looks like a super mall, like
Right.
that
It looks
era
like an
where
amusement
everyone's
park.
just making malls, and they
Yeah.
all have like abstract shapes and like kind
Right.
of neon colors, but not quite.
right.
That are now all just like left to rot. Like
Exactly.
that's the energy Mondo Burger brings. Like this will be the hottest thing for like 6 or 7 years, and then we'll just kind of be left to fester.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
I also love the dumb escalation of the Good Burger versus Mondo Burger thing in terms
yeah.
of like, again, it's the snobs versus slobs thing of like, they always escalate it way too far, and this movie takes that to the extreme where it's like, we are literally going to put shark poison in your like food to defeat you. Like, we will kill people just to win this fast food rivalry.
Right. Okay, can we talk about like the celebrity cameos in this?
Yes, I underrated how stacked a cast
I know.
this is.
I totally forgot about Carmen Electra who was much more relevant
Right.
back then than she. I mean, it's a name we just don't hear anymore. But at the time, Carmen Electra was huge, and the fact that they got her to like do all of these stunts, like, I mean, not all of them, but like for her to appear in a film where she gets totally brutalized,
is exclusively slapstick.
right? Is incredible.
Like, she doesn't get any triumphant moments. It is her getting
No.
the actual shit beaten out of her.
Exactly. Yes. Like that is amazing. And like by the end when that like that red spot on the middle of her forehead, I'm like, they really made her look ugly somehow.
She's like limping. She's literally on crutches.
At the end, yeah.
Limping over to announce that she's quit.
Right.
Hilarious.
Falls over. But
Then we have a couple mainstays from the All That cast too. Laura Beth Denberg
yeah,
just
who
gets.
I just
It's
mentioned.
like, let's just have a 5-minute non sequitur.
Right.
Of her.
I mentioned her in one of my internet minutes a while ago about like a meme that cropped up with her in it.
Oh yeah.
She's one of my faves from the show. She's just a really, I mean, like, it's, first of all, I mean, we're bouncing all over the place with this conversation. Just like, there's no rhyme or reason. Because, like, like, mentioning Lori Beth reminds me of how talented all of those kids were. Like, they were so good at comedy for how young they were. Like, I found myself so impressed with all of them. In all that, but especially in the performances in this film. But Yes. Were there other people from all that? I didn't.
Oh,
Oh, there's what's his
I
name
think,
from who played Roger from Sister Sister. I don't remember his
Yeah.
name.
one
He's
that's
like
not like a big
Romeo.
name is J. Augusto Richards, who was like Deathlock on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who I just love because it's such a 90s Marvel character. Deathlock!
Who? What character was this?
He's one of Kurt's like goons.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's kind of fun that he showed up all those years later in Marvel stuff.
Right.
Obviously, Sinbad is in this.
Okay, we
I
have to
didn't
talk
know the
about
reputation of
Sinbad.
Sinbad being like not good because in this movie, I'm like, he's hilarious.
He's great. I mean, to talk about like the 90s like Nickelodeon comedy and like them having a strong sense of tropes. Like I love that they just have this like unabashed use of these really strong stereotypes and tropes that they're just like, okay, just like dig your heels into this one type of person. And I love that this teacher that Sinbad is like what we would call like a hotep or which just means like a black person, like an African American specifically, that is like deep into like there are like black conspiracy theorists who like dig into these like African diaspora like so-called like myths, or like the man doesn't want you to know about the history that we were queens and kings back in Africa. Like they were just like obsessed with this stuff, and like they put him in this vest that says like I'm black and I'm proud. Like
He
he's
literally
got this afro.
The bit that always gets me is Keenan calls him Shaft, and then they do that do.
Oh yes. Wait, I just love that they let like whoever did like the sound design, like mixing, like editing for this, like they let Sinbad kind of like improvise a lot. I mean, a lot of this you can see where the improvisations are, but they sometimes they kept in certain lines that Sinbad gave even when he's not on camera. Like if he's just like in the scene but not on camera, and like he can just be heard saying something funny, they would like keep it in.
Right. Yeah, that's the energy of this movie. The energy
Yeah.
of this movie is we have a framework of a scene. How can you make it funnier? What weird thing can you say that will make people laugh? But like, yeah, and I also think like Sinbad underlines like I think one of the reasons why Nickelodeon was so unique in this era is because they were the one studio that like kids were watching that appealed to like black reference pool. Like I didn't
Yeah.
fully get that reference as a kid, but I kind of got it, and it's like, yeah, because normally I'm not
Right.
entertainment geared toward me as a kid isn't like
Right.
focusing on a black lens.
Right.
Whereas
exactly.
Nickelodeon at this time was like Kenan and Kel, they're our biggest names. Let's go all in on that. Like Coolio's
Right.
doing the music.
This is
like,
our Martin, like
it-
for Nickelodeon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, George fucking Clinton is in this movie of all people.
Whoa, George Clinton. Okay,
What?
yeah. Like
That's
what?
that one's insane. Like Shaq,
That-
whatever. He's like game to do anything. He just
At
got
that
to the
time,
Lakers.
He literally is.
Him and
game
Kobe aren't
for it.
fighting yet. Yeah, he hasn't locked in to get championships yet. But George Clinton?
George Clinton for the time, that was massive. Yeah, I mean that's really special, and to just have like okay, we're gonna turn this into like a Thriller style dance number, which is like let's talk about all the things that like a film like this wouldn't be able to get away with today, which is the
Yeah.
entire scene that happens in the insane asylum.
In the insane asylum. Well, that's what I love about the Slobs versus Snob story. Their way of like dealing with the competition is like, we know a guy who will have you admitted into an insane asylum. Like this is the 1800s and you're a woman with opinions.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We will have you put away. Oh, I mean, okay, so we can't really call this a cameo because she was early in her career, but this features a very, very young Linda Cardellini, which
Yes.
is so special. She looks like a baby in this.
I didn't
But
recognize
she's very
her.
funny. I know, yeah, she seems so different, but she's just very young.
But yeah, that whole insane asylum section, I'm like,
Right.
holy cow. I mean, again, the 90s were such a different time, but just like
Yeah.
how just unhinged this whole section is, where they're in this like
Right.
dank, really bleak looking insane asylum, and like
Exactly.
all the jokes are around like, look at all these crazy people.
Yeah. Look at all these insane, disgusting, dirty people. They're all
Yeah, they're all
mentally
gross.
unwell and they're dirty. And
One of
ugh,
them's a homunculus who like Ed like breaks him out of
Drools.
his restraints, and
Yes.
you in the distance you hear, "Oh God, he's killing Linda."
yeah. Like yeah, the girl has like a like fake birds like in her hair. There's just like stuff in her hair. Like it's yeah, everyone is just disgusting looking and they're literally like, oh, these people are crazy. Like
We're crazy. And they're all like dancing like the zombies from Thriller. Like I love
Why?
again in
Yeah.
the Pee-wee metaphor. It's like in Pee-wee he gets in a biker bar and he's about to get the crap kicked out of him,
Yeah.
and it's like, how do you get it? How's he gonna get out of this one? And it's put on high heels and dance. And this version is, we're in an insane asylum. We must dance.
yeah, if we just play some music, like I know you're all crazy, but surely you all want to
Yeah.
dance.
Yeah, if we do some '90s funk, surely we'll get out of this mess.
Right. I guess they were. It was probably more like we are like, okay, George Clinton agreed to be on. Like, what would be an appropriate setting for someone like George Clinton?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, we'll create a place called Demented Hills, which, again, that...
Yeah. You can't
Demented
say
fucking-
stuff like that. No.
Again,
No.
like, fuck Blazing Saddles. You couldn't make this movie today.
Right. Exactly.
Like, this was the energy 90s Nickelodeon was riding on, just on the edge. And it's like, let's make
Right.
George Clinton dancing crazy.
Exactly. Okay, wait. You know what other joke like caught me off guard? That like that I was like, oh, we couldn't do this today. So back like at the Good Burger when Abe Vigoda is like his name's Otis. I found out. He's
Otis.
the old guy, Otis. Yeah. Like he's
Again,
like
another
cleaning
just
up
crazy appearance in this.
Legendary,
Like, Abe Vigoda
yeah,
of
like,
Godfather
just
fame.
in this. And like all the jokes about him being like on death's door, like he's got like an oxygen mask, and like, but there's that one joke where like he falls and then he's like, "Can someone take me to the hospital? I think I just broke my ass." Like I was like, we could not do this.
That's just one of my favorite bits, just because of like how weird. And again, it's the improv energy of this that works so well with Keenan and Kel, where it just gets weirdly like casually conversational. Because Keenan helped him up, and then it's just like move out of the way. Just in this
Yeah.
almost like he's not on mic.
Right, exactly. Like and I guess for each of us who have like taken an acting class in the past, like you recognize when people are totally like are saying something off script, like and there's so much improv. Like there's a lot of I feel like that whole section with Shaq was totally improvised. Like it
Oh,
looks
yeah.
like it.
Shaq somehow gets one of the best lines, and like it's so funny that Shaq became an actor, because like how is he anyone other than himself? He's cute. Like
No.
I don't know. I
yeah.
went down a whole rabbit hole because people were talking John Cena versus The Rock versus Batiste. And the advantage Batiste has is like he's big, but he looks like a normal person. Like I believe there are guys who just look like
Yes.
that, kind of like beefy bald guys.
Sure. Yeah, he looks like a bouncer that could be at any bar ever. Like
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. Whereas like John Cena, especially The Rock, and like Shaq, it's like human beings don't look like you.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yes.
You don't look like you exist only in the space you're currently in.
And it's like, I don't know about you, but it's like I feel like The Rock and John Cena are hired to be themselves, and like at this point Dave Bautista is a character actor.
Right. I mean, and that's why John Cena as Peacemaker works, because Peacemaker as a character is like a parody. So
Right.
like, yes, it makes sense to have an actual pro wrestler do it, and then it's like, oh, you can actually just focus on him acting, and he's very good at acting.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, like this might be my favorite performance from Shaq, because it's like, just be Shaq. Like
Right.
literally, you
Yeah,
are
you just
Shaquille
stand
O'Neal,
there.
of
These weirdos
Los
are gonna
Angeles
come
Lakers
in.
center,
Right.
most popular player in the NBA currently, and he gets one of the best lines in the movie, where he's like, "I asked for tomatoes on this." Kel pulls out a tomato, slaps it on the burger, and he just looks him dead in the face and goes, "You're not like other people, are you?"
Yeah. No.
It just like stares deep into his soul.
Oh my gosh. Like, okay, wait, we have to like we were starting to do this earlier, but now that we're recording, like let's go through like our favorite one-liners, because this film, when I say had me cackling when I rewatched this, like some of the best just like zingers ever. Like what are some of your favorite moments?
I'm going in my head. I'm going chronological. Well, one, when he just the beginning of the movie when Ed wakes up from his dream. I love him swapping Kel and Ed, like basically free flowing, like cherry wine. It doesn't matter. You know who we're talking about. He wakes up from his weird, like stop motion burger nightmare,
Right.
and goes, a clock.
Yes. Yeah. When his alarm goes off, he's like, a clock. Yeah.
The bit that always kills me is like, and we haven't even explained the premise. You don't need to know. It's Good Burger. You know
what
the premise.
Yeah. You understand it.
Yeah. Dexter gets into an accident, and it turns out it's his teacher, and he's riding with his friend, and it's just the back and forth.
Yeah.
It's just that whole back and forth, but two moments in particular where he goes. Well, first it's Sinbad goes, "Brother Reed, you just messed up my afro." And Keenan's like, "Okay, I'm going to get us out of this. Just let me do the talking." And his friend is already out of the car, just
running down the street.
down an open suburban street. Like, just clearly in view for another, 10 minutes before he gets over that little crest. And then Sinbad just freaking out about the car. He's like, "That's Detroit leather, imported from Detroit." And I'm like, I love that they picked Detroit. It's like, it either had to be Philadelphia or Detroit for that joke to fit the character.
When he puts his face against the glass to look at the leather,
they really get you with those extras.
Right. yeah, they really get you. Oh my god. Yeah, Sinbad has some of my favorite lines. One of the lines that Sinbad has that there used to be a show on TV called This Old Home. Mm-hmm. That was a homemaking. Did you catch the joke where he's sitting, he hand painted his new mailbox after it got destroyed, and he's like, "Then we'll be calling you this old homie." He's just
every time.
And I'm like, bruh, they just let
weird
him say
sing-songy way Sinbad
want.
always talks.
Yeah, I know, right?
God, there's so many. I hate to reference Dan Schneider, but the bit where Kel's in the smoothie maker and he just goes, "Have you tried turning on the machine?" God, what are some other ones? Oh, yes. Basically, anytime Kel's lines are all just solid gold. It's like, man, you really carried this movie on Kel.
Yeah.
It's like, Keenan is in the restaurant for the first time. It's like, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" And it's like, "Ever been to Australia?" Oh, me neither.
Yeah, that yes, all of that. Oh my god, I feel like I have so many that are just sporadic. We have to talk about when Kel is okay, so again, we're just interchanging their names, but it's Dexter presents this bad contract to Ed, and he's looking over it. We talked about this, but the gag, and he's reading this contract, and this was a meme on Twitter for a while. This GIF went around, this clip of him being he's reading the contract, and he just goes, "I know some of these words."
So proud, with the biggest smile on his face. Just yep.
Yep, these are words. Yeah. Oh my god, that one.
The grinder always got me.
Oh.
Kurt being "If you mess with Kurt, you go in the grinder." And Keenan just getting progressively angrier, where it's are you literally referring to a grinder, or is this a metaphor? Right. And then later he's again with the grinder, man.
Right.
Oh, God.
And then we have to reference the last one, towards the end. Something about that, I don't even know what the conversation was. It was about them, being buddies or something, and
yes,
Cal just goes, "Is this because I'm black?"
Yeah, well, Keenan's "Hey, I'm tearing up this contract, man." It's well, you don't want to be partners anymore? And it's no, it's not that. Is it because I'm black? Yeah. And Keenan just gives him the longest look of
no.
What is wrong with you? Actually, are you okay?
Oh my god.
How do you get dressed in the morning?
Right.
Well, that whole thing is so because Siskel and Ebert did this. They did this as a review on their show, Which again, it's like, how did they get all these celebrity guests? It's because like Kenan and Kel had pull. Like it's kind of hard. Like I
Yeah.
feel like we're underrating as a culture how like
Right.
big Kenan and Kel was. Where it's like, yeah, this kid variety show, celebrities will be on that.
Obviously, yeah. Of course, they're dying to get on this show. Yeah.
Yeah, but like their debate, Siskel and Ebert kept going back and forth. They're like, are Kenan and Kel idiots? Like, are they dumb in this movie? And Ebert kept pitching this idea of like, well, no, they save the day in the end and they come up with a solution.
Right.
Like, so they can't be dumb. And again, it ties into what you're saying of like the weirdo having the solution. Like my favorite moment, I always reference the whole like moment. So basically, they discover that the burgers at Mondo Burger are like tainted, basically.
Right.
They use unethical chemicals to make them way bigger, and that's how they're able to afford like such big hamburgers at the same price as Good Burger. And the plan is sneak in, get a can of this chemical, and go out. Kel fumbles and spills one in, and then decides to just pour it all in.
Right.
And he has a great line where Kenan's like, "You tried to steal an empty bottle," and he just goes, "Wasn't empty when I got it." And then
Right.
as Kenan's like interrogating him, Kel goes on this whole thing where he's like, I figured if I grabbed it and ran, I'd probably get caught. And even if I did manage to get away and go to the authorities, Kurt would have had enough time to hire a legal team who would have
Right.
done any ruthless tactic to defend him. And with the way the courts are congested these days, it would have been years before he was convicted of anything of note.
Right.
So I figured I'd just pour it in and let him be a victim of his own ego. And Kenan just is like, you thought of all that? And Kel,
It's like, yeah,
it's
I'm
kind
not
of one of the
dummy.
thematic lines of the movie. Yeah, I'm not stupid.
Which is so amazing because it's like when you think back to the scene, he makes that decision in like 2 seconds. And to think
Right.
that was his entire thought process, that he, in a split second, he was like, oh, I'm going to dump all this in. And like that being what was going through his mind in that instance is very funny.
Right. And like, yeah, that's like even Good Burger was being saved because he has a weird sauce. And it's like, yeah, at
Right.
some point he was just like, what if I put all these things together?
Okay,
I-
wait. We have to talk about, because I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think the Ed sauce tastes like? Because I was paying attention this time. I was like, all right, he reveals that it's at least ketchup and lemon juice.
Which
But
are
then-
like staples of any like fun
Which is fine.
restaurant sauce.
Right. But then when he's making it, like, he's adding this, like, carnation, like, powdered milk to it. He also
does pickle
is
juice.
seen dumping in pickles, and I swear I saw him throw in a whole onion.
Yes. So let's be nice and say that's onion powder. Pickle juice, that tracks. Again, that's like a Chick-fil-A thing.
Okay,
Ketchup,
yes.
of course. The powdered milk is the one I don't get. Like, you could actually,
Right.
say, like, even the lemon juice, it's like, okay, this isn't insane thus far.
Everything, yeah. Ketchup and lemon juice, like, lemon juice is in a lot of things as a preservative. Like, it keeps things fresh from going rancid. But
Oh, man, see, the thing is, the movie's kind of gross, like, because it has that Nickelodeon gross out element,
Gross.
so part of me
It
was
is
like, I
gross.
never want to taste that. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm like, I'm surprised Binging with Babish hasn't done it, honestly. Like,
oh man, he
it's
could.
the orange part that throws me off. But
Yeah,
that's
it's a
Nickelodeon.
weird-
It's like, it has to be an orange hue.
It's a weird, like, opaque salmony color.
Right.
It
a
does
whole
look
empire
disgusting.
built around a gross orange color and a gross green color.
Right,
Ain't that
yeah.
just a thing?
The most offensive version of orange and green you can come up with. Yeah. And
Side
it's
tangent. I'm
iconic.
sorry. There was a clip. They had like the TMNT guys on, like the new actors on the Kids Choice Awards, and they all get slimed. And there's always that meme of Katy Perry getting her neck broken by a blast. They do that to everyone. It's actually insane.
can't believe
Like just
they're
how
allowed to
mean
do
they get
that.
with the slime. It's not enough to get someone gross. You have to physically injure them.
Injure them. I'm surprised that no one. I'm surprised Katy Perry was not seriously injured, like in her eyes, in her retinas, like from that. 'Cause
Right.
that's what happened. Like
I
that
have to
went in
assume
her
they-
eyes.
I have to assume they focus tested the formula to make sure it couldn't actually fuck up your eyes.
Yeah, that it was ingestible to a degree.
Yeah. But what do you what do you think it tastes like? What's
Okay.
your
It either tastes like Chick-fil-A sauce, like or
that
like
was what I was gonna say.
a little sweeter or richer, or I was gonna say campfire sauce from Red Robin. That's what it looks like.
I really
It's the
like
same
that
color.
idea. Like the campfire mayo.
Yeah, which is sort of like a barbecue. For those of you that don't know, it's like a it's like a barbecue honey mustard mix type thing that's like a little sweeter. Yeah.
It's like a mayo with like a smoky mustard addition.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's at least
Like
it's
it's literally
similar
like
color.
they took mayo, added a little honey mustard, and then dipped in a little liquid smoke.
Right. Otherwise, like most burger joints that have like a secret sauce, it's just Thousand Islands or like Russian dressing.
Right.
Like,
Well, yeah, that's what I love. Like McDonald's sauce, it's like that's just fucking.
it's just Thousand Islands. I can see it. Like it's Thousand Islands. Yeah.
It's the same color.
Right. It's got the little bits of like it's Thousand Islands. What about you?
I mean,
what
that's
do you think it is?
I mean, that's like honestly, those are good answers. Like, I kind of imagined it being, I don't know. I always imagine it being very sweet. Like,
Yeah.
because that just
Like,
seems
kinda
like Ed's
sugary.
personality. He seems like a guy who eats a lot of candy. So, like, he would
Yeah.
have that maximalist taste.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing with fast food, though. It's always the sauce. No one ever you don't go to
No.
Raising Cane's for chicken. If you wanted good chicken, you would go somewhere else. Like, you
Right.
go there because it has a sauce you can dip this stuff in. Like, the fast food,
Exactly.
like, that and Chick-fil-A, it's like, it's
I'm
basically...
in the mood
I
for
think,
sauce.
Yeah, it's... some other cooking YouTuber described it as, it's like when you have carrots with ranch. Like, you're not really in the mood for carrots, but,
No,
like, that's the
you wanna
easiest
eat
avenue to get
ranch.
ranch. But you can't just eat ranch because it'll make you sick.
Yeah, we gotta bully Binging with Babish into making. He should do both a Mondo burger and Ed sauce.
Yes. Well, no, see, have you seen his recent bit? He's not doing, like, stuff based off movies and stuff right now because in solidarity with the strike. So the joke is they're filming little fake movies to make stuff after. So he made
so
the
smart.
crispiest sandwich based off of They Kidnapped My Kid at Christmas. So it's a scene of him, like, on the phone with a hostage taker and being like, "How is this sandwich crispy enough for you, you sick fuck?"
Oh, that's so nice of him.
It's actually very funny.
Yeah, good for him. Wow, I like haven't kept tabs on him in a while, so that's nice to
yeah,
hear
I've
that
kind of
he's.
been out of the loop too.
Yeah.
But you know why I think this film works? Like, you were talking about, like, not to, like, leak company secrets, but you were
Right.
like, why am I getting emotional about this movie?
It has heart. Like, well, you know what? I have to say, like, structurally, in terms of plot, it's really straightforward. It's a really simple story. And
Yeah.
and so its emotional moments are super effective because there's not too much like convoluting it. Like it's like all of the it was so clever and so smart for like kind of like the stakes to be presented by this sort of third party character like in Monique, for her to come in and be like, for her to suddenly like add another layer of weight onto things like out of nowhere, seemingly, like in the middle of their date being like, "Thank you so much for being nice to Ed because he deserves it." Yeah.
It is funny because we talk about how crazy this movie is, but it's like, that's just the plot. That's the sit down of
Yeah.
like, this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And you're like, whoa, wait, when did that happen? Whoa,
Right.
wait, George Clinton was here? How's he
Yes.
doing? But like, the story is very clean. Like, it is Baby's
Right.
first screenplay, which is the
Yes.
exact, like, let's not overcomplicate this in thematic weight. Like,
Right.
nice clean story for comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just works because, like, I don't know, there's a lot of discourse about like the fact that Drake and Josh weren't actually really friends. Like, it seems like they either had an ambivalent or a slightly antagonistic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the stuff, like, Josh didn't invite Drake to his wedding.
Right.
Apparently in like the sort of sequel series he suggested, he was very mean-spirited toward Drake.
Wow.
And just generally, it doesn't seem like they had a rapport outside of, like,
Yeah.
their professional relationship. Whereas, like, I watch Kenan and Kel, and it's like, it's hard to deny, they just really like working together. They're, like,
Yes.
actually friends.
Right. Exactly.
And, like, so, basically, anytime the Good Burger skits from all that were those two together, they were causing each other to break.
Right.
Like, they didn't even try to hide it. Just, one of them would do something that would cause them both to crack up a little bit. And that energy just carries through this movie so much. Like, where you can tell they just like hanging out with each other and like making each other laugh.
right.
Like, one of the, for me, like, the most Kenan and Kel moment in this whole movie, I would say, is, like, the bit where, like, Kenan's genuinely mad at Kel for kind of, like, ruining his summer. And Kel just decides to be, "I'm grape nose boy," bloobity, bloobity, bloobity. And Keenan can't help but laugh. Like, he just can't help but crack up.
Right.
And it's like, why wouldn't you? Especially
Right.
when you're besties.
Okay, wait, that you just highlighted something that is my favorite thing that Ed does, which is like if somebody is accusing you of doing something wrong, you can just be like, no. That's what he does it twice in the movie. When Dexter
no.
confronts him about like he was like, it was you, like I ran into you, you're the reason I crashed my car, and he just goes, no. Like, does that work? Can you just say no if somebody tells you did something?
Right. And I like that there's never really a resolution to that, but it's because they became friends.
Right.
Because they are friends.
Yeah. And like the reality is there was never like this little $5 an hour job was not going to pay for the damage. Like
For a whole
Dexter
ass
was going
car.
to get in trouble with his mom regardless. Like, okay, he kind of mitigated it by like doing something to fix it, but it was like that was always an unrealistic goal. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, he drove without a license. There was going to be a consequence.
Right.
But he learned how to be a better person because he started
Right.
hanging out with this weirdo, like ageless teen cashier at Good
Yes.
Burger.
Yes, yeah.
And then learned to be a hero. Because, like, even by the end of the movie, it's like, oh, the whole Monique thing is kind of cleaned up off screen because he went to bat for Ed. He went to bat for Good Burger.
Right. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know, it seems like kind of a non sequitur, the whole like the yo-yo thing.
Mm-hmm.
But really like it's only there just to kind of like solidify Ed and Dexter as friends when and that's the part that got me choked up when he later just brings him a yo-yo. Or I was like, wow.
Right.
Like there's when you understand a character like Ed, who is otherwise kind of like quote unquote simple, like there's actually a lot of weight behind him like doing a gesture like that.
Yeah, it's like he's sincere and
Yeah.
before, like, yeah, he's simple, but that means he's like sincere and earnest, and if someone's nice to him, he's going to be nice back.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Man, what a wild movie, but man, I love this movie.
Right? I want to watch it again. Like I need to incorporate this into my like regularly watched things.
And perhaps my favorite bit that I forgot to mention earlier is they're sneaking on top of Mondo Burger, and Keenan is just he's on the struggle bus. He's doing everything in his power to
Yes.
get over this one like single ledge, and then by the time he gets up, he realizes Ed has somehow managed to climb the entirety of this elaborate metal burger and fry
And milkshake
shake
thing.
combo. And he's like going through being like, oh, you just do this, you
Get
hop
on the
across
burger,
these two,
hop on
you
this,
shimmy up
the straw. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Keenan just goes, is this American Gladiator?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Do you have any final thoughts you want to get out while we're talking Good Burger?
It wouldn't be us if we didn't do some like film school nerd stuff, but it's like this is a very strangely edited film. Some of its choices are a little wonky, but I think that's just maybe a marker of like the time period. And for
I think it's a combination of time period and like we gotta this
Yeah.
feels like a one take or take a kind of movie of like we
Right,
have to
one
move.
take or take.
We have like 3 sets. We gotta get done. Like we're
Yeah.
renting out this place that's an actual burger place. We gotta move, man.
But then so there's some like strange there's some strange edits here and there, but then there's also like one thing that I found myself like rewinding and watching over again is there's this sequence when Mondo Burger has its like grand opening, and there's this long tracking shot that they do from the entrance with what's his name, the villain's name,
Kurt.
yeah, where like
Kurt.
he does this elaborate like welcome to Mondo Burger, like welcome to the grand opening, and he cuts the ribbon, and like they do this long elaborate tracking shot like from the entrance like all the way in, following him into the restaurant, and I was like, okay, this is really elaborate. Like it's hard to do things with large groups of people, And to have like a continuous tracking shot that goes in one direction like that, like I was like, wow, okay, so this I'm kind of impressed with this shot right here.
It does feel like it's like we have the budget for like 5 expensive things.
Yeah.
We have everything else is getting pennies on the dollar.
Right, exactly.
We need this scene where the burger crushes a car. So, all right, we put that, like, quarter of the pie is going for that. A third of the pie is going to this opening because we need to make Mondo Burger look cool.
Right.
We need a chunk of this pie for, like, all the crazy car sequences because those are expensive.
And we
And
need
then it's
money
like,
for our...
what do we have left?
We need to pay these, like, A-list celebrities that we're having be in this.
Yeah. It's like, all right, how much money do we have left?
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Man. All right.
Nothing
We don't have a lot of film reel, people.
Right.
Oh, I'm kidding. They use digital cameras for this. There's not a chance in hell they... Well, actually, I don't know. I tried... It's so hard to find, like, that era when digital film was coming out. Like, I wish there were better records for some of the stuff of, like, did you use digital or did you use film for this?
Is there no obvious way to tell by looking at something?
I mean, it varies. If I really studied it, I could probably figure it out. My gut says digital because
Yeah.
it's very, like, pixely, but I'm also like, well, yeah, but that could just be, like, how it got, like, rendered and uploaded.
Oh,
But,
okay.
yeah, I don't know. This was, like, the early eras of digital where it's, like, you know, old guard directors were like, this is the death of art. Look at this shit. Look how bad this looks.
Right.
Whereas, like, the David Finchers and Michael Manns of the world are like, yeah, it's a blank slate. You can make it look like anything in the editing room. Like, this is great. Like, it gives you so much more control over everything.
Right.
Like, you don't have to just hope you did the lighting right on set.
Right. Right.
But I digress. That's my nerdy film addition to this
Right.
episode.
Anyway, what a fun
and-
time we've had.
It kind of has the perfect ending, too. Just everyone chanting Ed's name, and it's like, say something, Ed.
Ed, what?
Well, there's only-
Ed, what?
What? And he's right. There is only one thing to say. Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order? A movie that knows what it is to a T and
Right.
delivers it. And has a sequel on the way that they started filming before the strike.
There is?
Oh, yeah. Keenan
did I know
and Kel
that?
were both on their Instas talking about it. They just started filming it right when the strike was
man.
rolling in.
I don't think I knew
So
about
I have to
that.
assume they stopped.
Right.
Well, there was also a sequel book that I was so desperate to find. Someone made a novelization of a sequel where Keenan and Kel go on this, like, cross-world or maybe cross-country trip to return some pocket change. Like, some guy left his change on the counter. So they're going to go give it back. And it's, like, them in the burger car going on a big adventure.
Wow.
No, I'm not sure what this movie is, but it sounds like it plays into the, like, oh, man, remember the days of Good Burger sort of thing.
I see. Interesting.
I mean, look, if there's one thing we're going to use this, like, late era period of streaming for,
Right.
I could think of much worse things.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
And until we're back at Good Burger, ordering our Good Burger and good fries and good shake and good cookie, which I talk about a lot.
With Ed sauce. Don't forget the Ed sauce.
Oh, yes, and of course the Ed sauce. I'm Carter.
And I'm Sydney.
And welcome to the Disney Desk, home of the Disney Desk. Can I take your order?
Thanks for listening.